My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah.
Good morning, Pops the Paladin here. We're going to talk about Heroic Demonic Inquisition in the new raid Tumas Argaris. This specific fight, I do highly recommend 3 tanking it. Who knows what it's going to look like on mythic level difficulty, but currently I do recommend 3 tanks because it's fairly simple. You don't need the huge DPS check. Pretty much it's just a rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And you shouldn't come into any issues if you do lack your 1 DPSer. For the actual tanking and how you're actually supposed to taunt and position bosses, I'm going to tell you in our specific video, it's our first heroic kill, I'm going to tell you what not to do and what to do based on what's going on in the video. So in the 3 tank strat, 1 tank's going to go downstairs and they're going to pretty much just start hammering on that little ad down there to create the orb so people can jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out as quickly as possible. 1 tank needs to quote-unquote tank Balak, but he doesn't have any aggro tables, so really you're there as an interrupter. It's, in my opinion, wise as a paladin to start on him because you have, Avenger Shields, a Rebuke, and more Avenger Shields, and yet again another Avenger Shield to continue in interrupting Pangs. And Pangs of Guilt is what's going to add increasing stacks of torment to the raid group, and that's what you really need to avoid so you can stay up top damaging the bosses as much as possible. When the off tank who starts off on Artigan, who I would say quote-unquote is the main boss here, has full level torment and has to go downstairs, that's when it's your job to switch over and you now start tanking Artigan. So Artigan is going to do a couple different abilities in terms of what Balak is doing. So let's start off with Balak. Balak is going to do Pangs of Guilt, and you need to interrupt that. And then he's also going to do this Fell ability, Fell Squall. And Fell Squall, if you do any damaging spells to him, you are going to increase your stacks of torment. So that's when the entire raid group needs to swap to Artigan. Now Artigan is DPSable until he starts doing Bonesaw, and once he's doing Bonesaw, if you damage him during Bonesaw, you're going to gain stacks of torment. So you have to swap back and forth to make sure that you aren't gaining unnecessary stacks of torment. Dots that are already placed on to the boss don't affect your torment stacks, however any new dots reapplied will. So if you dropped a consecration on the ground, don't panic and say, I'm going to get too many stacks of torment. Technically it was already there as long as it was underneath him. Now, if you drop a new one on the ground and he runs through it, then of course you're going to gain stacks of torment. But what you really need to do in this specific instance is stack these 2 bosses until Bonesaw is about to go out from Artigan. And what I wanted you to take away from our specific video is we didn't necessarily do that very well. Of course, it's something that we're going to improve on for our future kills and so on and so forth. But you really want to stack them as much as possible. And about 80-85% of his energy bar, just start to pull Artigan out. So when he does go into Bonesaw, he doesn't hit the rest of your raid group, who is currently, destroying Balak at that point in time. Now let me talk about how to do this 3 tank strat to where some guides say that you have to swap all 3 so that you're constantly rotating. If you have a Blood Decay who can tank with you, and our Blood Decay specifically is off tank number 7, I believe, number 9, I can't remember, but he's like off tank way down the list. But anyways, he devised this nice mathematical equation to work out the stacking debuff that occurs when you go down below. When you go down below, a debuff is applied to you every 6 seconds, and that debuff lasts for 12 seconds. So, of course, you can't just kind of get rid of an ability unless you have an anti-magic shield, you have a full immunity that lasts longer than the reapplication. So you want to pop it at that 7-second mark. So here's exactly what he does, so that way you can technically keep 1 tank down there forever and never have to do this crazy swapping, making sure we have the right person on Artigan, because he's the only one who's going to aggro to everybody else. Balak will not. So here's what he does. He takes that debuff up to 8 stacks, and then he makes sure at the same time he has 10 stacks of bone shield. which is going to increase his max health pool. At that point in time, he pops Vampiric Blood to further increase his HP. On top of that, he has 2 strength trinket, or 2 stam trinkets, I'm sorry. He's got Persia's Medallion and Animated Exoskeleton, which he then also uses on top of that. Then he pops Anti-Magic Barrier, and Anti-Magic Barrier, he pops that at the 7 seconds, and because he has the legendary cloak, it lasts double the amount of time, so he's able to go all the way through the new application of the buff, so it doesn't actually get put onto him, and he technically resets his stacks, so he can stay down there indefinitely. Things that you have to make sure when you're running this specific build down there, and I know this is a Paladin channel, but here's how to really cheese this so that way you can get a whole lot of damage as a Paladin upstairs, because that's where it matters. You have to be running, your Blood Decay has to be running Anti-Magic Barrier and Fall Bulwark, and in order for that all to work nicely. And then you could stay up top pretty much until you got full Torment, then you gotta go downstairs, instantly grab those glowing balls down below, come back up and begin DPSing as much as possible. And that's pretty much it. This fight is a rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. My recommendations on Balik and on Artigan, when they have anywhere in the energy level of 90, 95, just do a hard swap then. Don't wait until they're already casting their ability, because you're just applying unnecessary stacks of Torment. Don't stand in the purple stuff as you saw me do. That's gonna unnecessarily stack Torment, and pretty much from there on out, it's a very simplistic fight. Occasionally Artigan does smack you for a huge amount of damage out of nowhere with no cast bar. But as long as you're being very safe, very proactive with your own personal healing and your own personal Shield of the Righteous, Eye of Tear usage, you should be just fine in this specific fight. Hopefully this helped you. I hope you get a lot of good gear. Obviously this is our first tier boss of the instance. I wish you all the best. I'll catch you on the next video, guys, and have a lot of fun. Catch you later.